Today's episode is one that so many of you asked for, and honestly, I'm glad you did, because character dining is one of those very Disney World things that people either love or feel a little bit torn about. I thought it would be interesting to, instead of giving a generic list of like my best to worst, to actually rate and walk you through every single spot where you can eat a meal with characters at Disney World, how they really stack up in terms of food, atmosphere, price, and characters to make it all feel worth it. Because like most things in Disney World, there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer, so my goal is to help you figure out which ones are actually worth it for your trip. Like I said, this is not a worst to best type of ranking. I feel like that would be impossible for me in particular because a lot of these are kind of tied for me. So when push comes to shove and they're kind of like head to head, it comes down to like, but I like both and don't make me choose. These are my personal ratings based on our own experiences over the years, what was amazing, what was just okay, and what was worth it, but also I don't need to do again. So I'm going to break each of the 13 spots down by price, character interactions, food, and location. And hopefully by the end, you'll feel like you can make a more clear decision on whether that hard-to-get reservation is actually worth the hype. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of 3, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. So here's how we're going to do it. I'll give you the name of the restaurant, where it's located, and then my score, plus the pros and cons that kind of landed it there. And just so we're clear, this is based on my personal experiences with my family over the years, but I am not here to yuck anyone's yum. If you love one of these that I mentioned that I ranked lower, that's totally fine. We all have different trip priorities, nostalgic factors, budgets, and taste buds. Now, removing all of those variables, I'm scoring each restaurant using 4 main things. First is price. So I'm actually scoring lower for the higher the price. Because if I rank something at 10 out of 10, it has to be worth the cost. But if there's a dining spot that's maybe like a 7 out of 10, but is very affordable, I feel like it should get bumped up a point. You know what I mean? Because these character meals, they can get really expensive. Colton and I rarely get sticker shock anymore when it comes to the resort, park tickets, souvenirs, food. But this is the one thing that we're constantly like when we get the receipt, we're like, ooh, kind of have to take a deep breath when we see the bill. Second is the character interactions. And this is the most like untangible thing to rate out of all of the options, because really I'm rating the characters based on, yes, the characters themselves, but mostly like the vibe of how rushed we feel with the characters. Are they in and out fast? Do they really make an effort to connect with our kids? And I also ranked based on like the uniqueness of the characters. Like for example, there's only one dining spot to meet Stitch, whereas there's a lot more to meet Mickey. So I feel like that gets a little bit of a bump in character interactions because he's unique. Third is food, which is very simply how good it tasted and whether like if it's a buffet, if it's worth going back for seconds. Because sometimes the food, especially buffets, don't match the price tag or the experience. So while I took into account the food specifically that I like and my taste buds as an adult, I also thought about my kids and what they've liked and like the options that they have for more picky eaters too. And last, the location. How easy is it to get there? How the space and restaurant feels once you're inside? How good the lighting is for pictures of your kids with the characters? Just the overall space itself. By the end of the episode, you'll have my clear rating from 1 to 10, and I'm going to go through each restaurant in alphabetical order. So again, this is not a ranking, but I'm just going to rate each spot from A to Z. And at the very end of the episode, I have a few tips for you to get the most out of your character meal if and when you book one. Let's start off with the princess heavy option that often gets compared to Cinderella's royal table, and that's Akershus Royal Banquet Hall. I'm laughing because I did look up the pronunciation for this one, and it is indeed, it's like Akershus. I think I'm going to say Akershus most of the time, but like to each his own of how you pronounce it. I'm excited to chat about this one first because we recently ate at Cinderella's royal table, which I will be getting more into, but you need to know about Akershus if you haven't heard about it yet. So this is in Epcot, right next to where you meet Anna and Elsa and can ride Frozen Ever After. Great for little Frozen fans. Ironically, you do not meet Anna and Elsa here at this restaurant, but it is the next best thing to eating at Cinderella Castle because it is like princess heaven here. So the characters rotate here quite a bit, and Disney seems very careful about what promises they make on their website as to what princesses will be there. So it's a little elusive. They say storybook princesses. That being said, I haven't visited there without seeing Belle, Snow White, and Ariel, and then the other two kind of being all over the place. Like you could see Tiana or Jasmine. I think I have heard of Mulan being there, Cinderella, but just know you're going to see 5 princesses no matter what. If you have like a diehard princess fan that wants to match, I would kind of set the bar low. Don't give any promises. Listen, she may not be there, but it's okay because XYZ. But between you and me, if I had to put my money on it, I would always count on Belle as being there. After tallying everything up, Akershus came up with a rating of 8 out of 10 for me. First thing it scored really high on was the price. It's very affordable for the amount of princesses you get to see. And while it's not at the castle, the interior is very, very similar of a vibe. It feels old and royal, which may not necessarily sound like a good thing, but that's honestly how the castle feels. So they have that same vibe, but the cost difference is literally in half. The food really falls into 2 buckets in my mind, like the breakfast food and then the lunch and dinner food, because good news is that there's characters for every meal, which is great. The breakfast food I definitely prefer. It's family style and would be better, I think, for picky eaters because you have all the basics. You have scrambled eggs, sausage, waffles. They're not Mickey waffles. They're Norwegian waffles, which are essentially a thinner style of a waffle that look like little hearts. They're great. Lunch and dinner have more adventurous sounding things like chicken with fennel and apples, seared salmon, shrimp. And honestly, I like all of those kinds of foods, but I could see it not being a fan favorite, especially because those are the set options that are brought to your table. You're not getting dozens of different things like a buffet. But there is very randomly placed mac and cheese on the platter, so that's nice too. So if I had to choose, it would definitely be in replacement for Cinderella's royal table. I would definitely never book both in the same trip. And I would opt for a mid-morning breakfast. So we could meet Anna and Elsa in the morning, have first return time lightning lane for Frozen Ever After, then eat a big breakfast after. That's a solid morning, especially for a Frozen fan. Next on the list, we have Cape May Cafe, which is at Beach Club Resort, which by total coincidence also got an 8 out of 10 rating. Cape May Cafe is definitely more of a hidden character breakfast over at Beach Club, but a big red circle around Cape May Cafe because there is only characters for breakfast, which is what we're focusing on. This is also the cheapest, or maybe one of the cheapest character meals around Disney World, and I would for sure put this at the top of my dining list if I were staying at Boardwalk, Beach Club, or Yacht Club, even Swan and Dolphin, and was looking for a character buffet. Because while I have a love-hate relationship with buffets, because simply I do not want to get up and down 10 times to get plates for my 3 children plus myself. There's a lot going on with buffets. And then when I am eating, I feel like I'm stopping every 5 minutes to grab an autograph book and take a photo. So adding the up and down of a buffet, it's just hard. Not having a buffet and having the food brought to me definitely makes it easier when you have little kids, in my opinion. But the plus side is everyone can find something. Even if some of the food is subpar, there's usually 1 or 2 things you end up loving. And yay, it's a buffet. You can keep going back and get more. At Cape May Cafe, you're going to get the full like beach vibe with Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy in kind of like old school beach attire, like, you know, Cape May, New Jersey. And this is a chill character meal in my opinion. It's not like super big or super loud. There's some natural light, and the character ratio to people I feel like is very high. The buffet and food itself, I would give like a solid good. You have your normal stuff like Mickey waffles, unlike a Curtius, but some unique things like poached eggs. Yum. Throw that on a biscuit. I'm all about it. One of the downsides that I took off a point for was the characters, because even though they have wonderful interactions, it's missing Mickey. It's hard to put it on the same level as some other spots that have Mickey, which is like usually the main man who everyone wants to see. Which brings me to our next restaurant, perfectly timed, which is Chef Mickey's at the Contemporary Resort. I am so scared to say my rating, but I'm going to tell you. And this is just, it's not my fault, okay? I just rated it and calculated it, and I ended up with a 4.7. Goodness gracious, that sounds so bad to me now that I just got off of 2 8s in a row. But hear me out on this one. Chef Mickey's is popular for a lot of reasons. First off, it's Mickey, like we said. And second, it's Mickey for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you don't have to worry about him not being there for one of them. For some reason, this is the one that just gets booked. Like it's just almost a no-brainer to people that you go to Chef Mickey's. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because it was one of the first ones. And I want to say I have a lot of friends that love Chef Mickey's because it's nostalgic. They love that you can see Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and Pluto. I mean, that is a lot. But it loses the most points for me for the location. I personally, this is just a me thing, don't love the location at all. While it's a little convenient being on the monorail, so getting to and from Magic Kingdom is pretty easy. If I'm not staying at the Contemporary, especially, I just don't like the vibe there. I don't know how else to say it. I feel like it's very loud. The characters feel rushed. The price is not cheap, especially for lunch and dinner. It's on like the middle to high end. And there are just so many other character meals that I would go to before Chef Mickey's, especially ones that are like inside the park, also have Mickey, have better interactions and food, which of course we are going to get to, and it'll become more clear as I talk about the other spots. I'm glad we're moving on to Cinderella's Royal Table now that we've chatted about Curtius, and this is inside of Cinderella's castle in Magic Kingdom. And I'm surprised how high of a rating this got for me, which was 9.3. Like, that's high. A 9.3? Okay. This is the one character meal on this whole list that on paper and with my style and things I normally like doesn't really make sense. But I'm a sucker when it comes to this one. It's very exciting eating at the castle. I don't know how else to say it. This is the Disney World hype that I'm falling for. I think it's very fun eating at the castle. This is the one character meal that you will also pay ahead of time for. So even though it stinks when you make the reservation 2 months before, it actually feels really nice the day of because it feels free. Classic, like, girl math. I gave the food an uptick a little bit with points because it's good in the way that wedding food is good. You know, like it's not the food you get excited for. You don't really crave salmon or ribeye, but it's tasty. And, big and here, they bring it to you. So your kids are oohing and eyeing over the fact that you're in the castle and like looking at all the stuff. And then you're getting like a mimosa flight during breakfast. And my food is brought to me. We've been there twice in the last few years, and the first one a while back felt a little okay. It was like coming out of the closures, but this past month, we went back, and I was really having a great time. I liked it. I thought it was great. Everyone had fun. I wouldn't schedule this on like my one and only Magic Kingdom day necessarily. If this is like your first time to Disney, I don't think it's necessary. But if you want like one big thing, and this all sounds up your alley, I just want to say something to prepare you. You're probably going to walk out of it saying, that was fun, but I don't need to do it again. It's just like one of those things that you don't have to do often, but you're still like glad that you did it. I don't know how else to say it. Now we're coming up on our first 10 out of 10. And again, I'm so glad I rated these and didn't rank them because there ended up being another 10 on this list, but they are in completely different categories when it comes to where it is and the types of characters. And that first 10 out of 10 is Crystal Palace and Magic Kingdom. One thing I have to get out of the way is Winnie the Pooh is one of my favorite characters. He was like my first love as a child. My room was classic Winnie the Pooh themed. I read all of the books and I just love him and all of the other characters that go with him. And I also grew up in a very, how do I explain it? Like cottagey style house. Like my mom loves antiques and dried floral arrangements and all those things. And Crystal Palace just kind of fits that vibe. I love the light in there so much because it's like an atrium. So all of your photos look good no matter where you're sitting. And I will say my favorite meal there is definitely breakfast. Like sweet Pooh Bear and natural light and a mimosa. It all makes me feel very happy. This got the highest of points for characters because obviously I love them, but they're not your typical characters. Like getting to see Pooh, Tigger, Piglet, and Eeyore feels very special. You don't see them that much. And their interactions, because of the personalities, are very sweet. Like they're cuddly, they're not scary, they move very slowly. Just a great first-time character meal if you are bringing like a 6-month-old to a 2-year-old for the first time. This is a fantastic character meal to start with. This is a buffet, which I know I told you isn't my favorite, but it still gets on the high end when it comes to points for buffet food. A lot of people love the Churro Mickey waffle, and yes, it is good. It's not why I necessarily love it here though, but it's nice that it has something special on top of their normal breakfast food. Like that's a very unique offer. One of the hacks that people do here is to book a reservation between breakfast and lunch so you actually can get both the buffets, which is honestly not a bad idea. In our experience, when we went for lunch, it was definitely a lot busier and we had less time with the characters than breakfast, which is hard because I kind of go back and forth between timing because really in the morning, I want to take advantage of getting on rides with low waits. So while I love like a early morning breakfast here, again, I wouldn't do that if I only had one day in Magic Kingdom. I would do something a little later or lunch. But if you had 2 days in Magic Kingdom, or maybe you were just popping in and hopping somewhere else, I feel like this is a great breakfast spot. So let's imagine we are hopping from Magic Kingdom to Epcot because next we're going to talk about Garden Grill, specifically in the Land Pavilion. So this is in the same building. You'd ride Soarin' and Living with the Land. My rating for this was a 6.8, and I can imagine my husband listening to this and being like appalled at that because he likes it here. And the reason he likes it here is the reason that I actually knocked it down for a lot of points. If you haven't been to Garden Grill before, this will be hard to explain in a podcast without showing you, but it is a circular restaurant where the platform slowly rotates as you're eating your meal. And not only does it rotate, but you're on the outside of the platform facing outwards. So it's not like just normal tables and chairs in the middle. It's very obvious to you that you are slowly rotating. And that is where the characters get to you from like the outside of the ring, which is Mickey, Chip, and Dale. They kind of like pop in to greet you. And I just think it's very odd and strange. I don't love that setup, although like I get it. It's unique, I guess. I don't know. It's just odd to me. I don't feel like it adds anything cool. My husband feels the exact opposite. Where it lost some points for the location, it made up for with the food because first off, it's family style, aka a human being brings the food and puts it in front of you, which thank goodness, because if this place was a buffet and you were getting up and down like while spinning, no. Like when I had to get up to go to the bathroom, which is like outside of it, I was so discombobulated as to like where my table would be when I got back. But anyway, The family style platters that come for lunch and dinner have turkey, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes and gravy, cornbread, and yes, if it sounds like Thanksgiving food, yes, that's exactly what it is. And yes, around Thanksgiving, reservations do get harder to get. Breakfast is a lot less expensive, but the menu doesn't really do anything for me for what it is. Like, it's just regular breakfast food. I'd actually rather spend the extra money and go with the Thanksgiving style food, honestly. So I think the setup is weird. Nice seeing Chippendale. Food is just nice and easy and comforting. And it's a convenient spot for where it is in Epcot. But yeah, just a little bit above the middle, 6.8 rating for me. Our next character meal is another one that's inside the parks and not at a resort, and that's Hollywood and Vine in Hollywood Studios. This got a 6.0, solid 6 from me, and here's why. Now, I did not regret eating here at all because it was summer and I was a genius for booking an early lunch reservation, because when I tell you we had just about melted into the ground at that point, and there just is not enough good dining spots in Hollywood Studios. It's just really hard to book anywhere that I'm excited about. So I was like, okay, we'll try it. And that's how Hollywood and Vine feels to me, just like not exciting. It's your classic characters, so Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, and Donald. And the location itself is one of those places that it's meant to feel retro. Like, it's meant to feel like an old school diner. But because it's been around a while, it just actually feels like old and not in a good way. Does that make sense? Everything just needs to kind of be updated, I think. Like the upholstery, the bathrooms, everything kind of had like that diner tinge to it. And it's like, what are you supposed to do about that when that's what it's literally meant to be like? That being said, our waitress was great and the characters were great. When my daughter spilled an entire root beer, our waitress was really nice about it. And then Pluto actually played with the baby, like straight up took a toy, attached it to his nose, and was like dancing around for probably like a full 5 minutes, just entertaining him. So I gave the characters the highest points I could here. And what can really make this place feel very special is for breakfast, they have Disney Junior characters, which is really unique. So like Vampirina, Doc McStuffins, like that's a big deal being able to meet all of them for one meal. So I'd probably bump it up to like a 6.3 or 6.5 if you're going for those and had like a diehard Disney Junior fan. Up next is a place that I want to love so badly, especially for my daughter. She's 9 years old, who, by the way, said this is her favorite character meal. And that's Ohana at the Polynesian, specifically for breakfast. And I ended up giving it a 7.3. And what saved this from being like a 4 rating is that this is the only place where you're guaranteed to meet Stitch and like give him a hug, take a picture. And he's a popular guy. So it makes sense that this is popular on top of the fact that he's only there at breakfast. I repeat, Stitch is only there at breakfast. So you're going to have some classic breakfast family style brought to your table. They also have Pog Juice, which is like their thing. My kids really do like that. I just feel like the Polynesian itself and Ohana doesn't do it for me like it used to. I feel like it just, again, all has to be updated. The last 2 or 3 times we were there, we did not get lucky with our table position, and I wish I had asked to sit by a window, which, pro tip, you can ask to be seated anywhere you want. And for character meals, getting asked to sit near a window is like a guarantee that your photos will look better. So for me, I could definitely skip it. I don't think it's anything special, but it has Stitch. And it's not just Stitch. It's Lilo and Mickey and Pluto. And I actually don't see them listed on Disney's website of Mickey and Pluto, so maybe they don't want to promise that, but they've been there when we've been there. So I mean, you're getting those big characters that your kids want to meet, especially if you have a Stitch fan. I mean, it is really worth it just for that alone. Now, even though I don't like the vibes, I didn't take points off for the location because it is on the monorail line, which means it's in a great spot if you're staying at the Polynesian or one of the other monorail resorts, or maybe you want to pop in or out of Magic Kingdom. The best way I do this is actually to book a late breakfast if you're going into the parks, like a brunch, because one of the good things is that breakfast runs from 7:30 to 12:15. So you could get a bunch of rides done in Magic Kingdom, hit the monorail, grab brunch before taking a break or going back into the park if you wanted to. If you're staying at Polynesian or next door at the Island Tower, I would definitely want to do this on like checkout day. Again, if I had a Stitch fan. Now we are moving on to a really unique spot because a lot of places are only at breakfast. This one is the opposite, and it's only for dinner, and that's storybook dining at the Wilderness Lodge. This got a high rating for me of 9.3 because here you get to see Snow White, Dopey, Grumpy, and then after you eat, you have the option of meeting the Evil Queen, which is really awesome because I think a lot of kids are scared of her, which makes sense. So she's not like coming around to your table terrifying everyone. So you have like the option to meet her afterwards. And like where our table was, we couldn't even see her until after we were done eating. So my kids didn't even notice her. And I think maybe I just got a picture. I don't know. I think my daughter did get a picture with her. She's a really fun character to meet. I like her. Out of all the character meals, and when you think of a theme like this place has a theme. It's really immersive from the second you walk in. The whole dining room feels very magical, and it matches so well being inside Wilderness Lodge. Like it's dark and cozy, and there's twinkle lights in the trees on the ceiling. And it's the only character meal that has like that type of theme, like a magical forest. I really just like the whole dining room itself. The food is similar to Cinderella's table where it's price fixed, so you pick the entree you want. The food is on the upper hand side of good, like on the fence between good and great, I would say. I loved my prime rib mostly because I had horseradish mashed potatoes. So I do think it's just kind of like a coincidence that the menu here is suited to what I like, which helps. But everything was themed. Like literally every cocktail name was themed and interactive. The kids' appetizer, they're like shaking a little jar to churn their own butter. It really felt like you were eating at Snow White's table. So when it comes to characters, fun fact, Snow White is like my favorite princess to meet. She's so much like in the movie, like it's so distinct how she talks and moves that when you get a good Snow White, it is just great. And we did. We had the most perfect Snow White when we had dinner. I really loved it here. And if you're looking for a special dinner, I wouldn't choose this necessarily as like your one and only character meal, just because it's not Mickey. Like I don't think most toddlers and young kids go nuts over Snow White and Dopey. Maybe yours do. But like I remember my daughter didn't want to get a picture with Grumpy because he's grumpy, like he's not nice, and she was a little scared of him. But a birthday or anniversary or a little girl who happens to be obsessed with Snow White, it's great, especially if you're staying at Wilderness Lodge. Actually, talking about it, I think I want to go back again next time we're in Disney. I just like talked myself into it. Here comes the second 10 out of 10 rating and my favorite breakfast on property to specifically meet Mickey. And it's the one I would choose if you had no desire to meet Winnie the Pooh, which was my other 10 rating. And that is Topolino's Terrace at the Riviera Resort. Now, we just got back from staying at Riviera and being at Topolino's, so having this all fresh in my mind, everything from the restaurant to the food to the characters and their outfits to having Skyliner access if you're not scared of it before you go into Epcot, it's kind of like Laid Back Magic 101. This is the only character breakfast with Mickey that is not a buffet, which is a huge plus in my opinion and why we love Topolino so much. I just want to give you some of the options of the menu real quick of things you get to choose from. You have quiche Gruyere, eggs Benedict, which is like one of my favorites, sour cream waffle, steak and eggs, which comes with polenta, French toast. And then for the kids, since everything is themed like artists, their Mickey waffles come with little dips. Like it looks like an artist palette. And they can stick their little waffles into, which keeps them entertained. Then plus the characters are coming around. And I really love their outfits here. They're just less stimulating, you know? Like everything I don't love about Chef Mickey's, Topolino's Terrace is the opposite. It just feels very relaxed to me. The food is good. Again, I don't have to get up and down. So this is my top recommendation for meeting Mickey Minnie, Donald, and Daisy, and really just having a good breakfast with good coffee and good service. 10 out of 10. Moving back into the parks, we're going to Animal Kingdom at Tusker House. This ended up getting a rating for me of 7.7. And my favorite part of Tusker House is it feels very unique and adventurous, from the dining room itself to the buffet and the types of food that they have. And you can find some random things. Like, I feel like my favorite is the green curry shrimp. I had it with rice. I think I went back like 3 times for that. But before you write this off as like, oh, my kids won't eat that, don't worry. Okay, there's still chicken fingers and mac and cheese. This is a great, safe space to try new things, I think, because it has those like bold flavors like Animal Kingdom usually has, which is what I like about it. But it also has like your safe, normal things. I didn't feel like the characters were out of this world here, but I have many friends that have had the best character interactions ever here. So we, for lunch, felt pretty rushed on this particular day, and that could have been a lot of factors. But for the price and when it was all said and done, and all the good food in Animal Kingdom, that's mainly what lost points for me here. So unless I had no other opportunity for a character meal, I just don't think that's where I want to be eating in Animal Kingdom. I'd rather be at Nomad Lounge or Satuli Canteen or Tiffin's. I just love the food in Animal Kingdom so much. And that's, again, why I liked the buffet. But yeah, it just didn't do a lot for me to give it a higher rating than that, but not a bad rating either. So you heard my lowest rating went to Chef Mickey's, and this is the one just above that. And I'm probably going to get some messages, and they're going to be nice because I warned you guys ahead of time that I know one experience can't be like the rating of a character meal for everyone. But here we are. This is what we're doing. And that's 1900 Park Fare at the Grand Floridian. And this got a 5.3 from me. I didn't feel like the characters were out of this world here. So we were able to see Mickey, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy when we were there. But I have many friends that have had like the best character interactions here. The nice thing about 1900 Park Fare is that there are characters for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you don't have to worry about choosing a meal. And the characters are genuinely unique. You can meet Tiana wearing pants, which is very exciting. Aladdin is there most nights. I've heard that he's not there always, but he was there when we were there. So we met Cinderella, Aladdin, Tiana, and Mirabelle. And while they all make sense on paper, because the theme of this restaurant is making a wish, just wishes, not the movie Wishes, but wishing. And they have you make your own wishes, like you write them down. And Jiminy Cricket comes on the speakers and does this little prompt about wishes for kids. It was very cute. It felt disjointed to me still, like wishing is not a theme to me. They did a lot with the murals and the menu and the little cards that they give you. But because it's a buffet, I feel like there's less theming with the food, if that makes sense. Like, I think if it was family style or like a price fix, they could add the wish theme a little bit more, similar to storybook dining, where everything was themed. And one of the biggest issues, which is totally a me thing, and I understand, is there is not a single window in this place. And I remembered it as soon as I walked in from like a decade ago of like, oh, this is the place with no windows. It's just windowless. And I don't know. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to eat without seeing outside. Is that weird? And while the food was good, like my salmon was really, really good. And the famous cold strawberry soup was good. It was just nothing to give enough points. Like even if I gave it the highest food ranking, I can't get it high enough to set off the characters, the location, and the price. Because it is one of the pricier character meals, especially because we felt so rushed. I think we were in and out in like under an hour, and then you get the bill and you're like, ugh. Now, all that being said, I would go back possibly for 2 reasons. Definitely if I was staying at the Grand Floridian, like that would make perfect sense. For our particular meal, we kind of like trekked from the Riviera to eat there, and it just didn't seem worth it for that. I feel like if I was staying there it would have felt a lot easier and like less of a big deal. And the second thing is that it feels more like a breakfast vibe place to me. So if I went back and I was staying at the Grand Floridian, I would definitely book breakfast. It had a similar feeling to me like Crystal Palace. Like I think I'd be happier there with a mimosa than prime rib. You know what I mean? And it's less expensive for breakfast. I would probably feel less rushed with the characters. And I think that added to my low rating that it was dinner and we weren't staying there. If you've made it to the end of this episode, great job. High fives all around. Usually my outlines for podcast episodes are like 4 to 5 pages in a Google Doc, and this one was 11. So I knew this was going to be a longer episode right off the bat, but as promised, I wanted to give you some tips and reminders for character meals. First is that kids under 3 eat free at these character meals. So if it's a buffet, they just expect that they're eating off your plate, which is great because you can find a lot of little toddler-friendly things for them to eat, like fruit and fries and mac and cheese, all those things. And the same thing goes for a price fix, unless you order something that's not included. Like if you order them their own meal, obviously you'd be charged for that. Tip number 2 is to ask your server when you get there if it's a good time to go to the buffet, if it's a buffet. They know the flow and the timing of characters. So like sometimes they'll say, hey, let me get your drinks because Mickey's on his way. Like stay put, I'll be right back. Or they'll say, now's a perfect time to hit the buffet. Like hurry back before the characters come. 3 is to be ready with your autograph books or sketchbooks or hats or whatever people are getting signed these days, if that's a priority for you. And as a former photographer, please don't feel bad asking to be near a window. I've gotten very lucky and unlucky sometimes with our table, like I mentioned at Ohana. And I think to myself, man, my photos look like trash because we have no natural light and we can't see anyone. And that's another reason why I love Topolino's, by the way, that I didn't mention, is it has the best light in the whole place. It doesn't even matter what table you sit at. 4 is to triple check when the characters will be there. I know I kind of went over all of that, but you don't want to get to dinner and realize that the characters were only at breakfast. So always check that ahead of time. Tip number 5 is to not feel like you have to do this. You can meet characters other ways. And, you know, sometimes these character meals, I know I said some of them feel rushed, but typically they're like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. So it does take a chunk of your park day. Don't feel like you have to cram in a character meal just because you feel like you have to. Now, you may be wondering, after I did this whole list, why I didn't talk about Be Our Guest in Magic Kingdom. If you've heard of that, it is a Beauty and the Beast themed restaurant. But I don't consider that a character meal, and actually neither does Disney on their website, because there's no character actually walking around to greet you. I just wanted to throw that out there in case you thought I missed it on the list. Hopefully this helps you feel more confident about where to spend your time and money, because I know I get asked about this all the time when it comes to character meals in Disney World. If you loved this episode and it was helpful for you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who's planning their trip too. And if you need even more guidance, especially around sketching out your days so that the meals kind of flow with your plans, and then how to make these reservations in the first place, check out my members only planning guide. It's called Laid Back Magic and it's linked in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.